Good evening, everyone. My name is Maria Maldonado, and today I will be talking about an important event in the American history, and that is the Boston Tea Party. So, to start off, I will be explaining what events led up to the Boston Tea Party, following with what exactly had occurred that night, and ending in the results of what happens after that night. So, to start off, in the year 1733, the British had passed a tax on the 13 colonies, and it wasn't for the revenue, but it was designed for protecting the large owners. And this was started on molasses. So, what it did was increase the price on molasses. Okay, years and years later passed. It's now 1764, and the British Parliament passes the Sugar Act, which does make molasses a lot cheaper, but it also calls for stricter enforcement. And around this time is when the Sons of Liberty begin to formulate with James Otis and Samuel Adams. And what the Sons of Liberty is a secret organization by the 13 colonies trying to gain rights from the British. A year later, and the British passed the Stamp Act. So newspapers and illegal documents must have a stamp on it. 2 years later passed by, and they passed the Declaratory Act, which is basically saying I can pass any law on you and you cannot do anything about it. That same year, they passed the Townshend Act, which is taxation on paper, glass, paint, and tea. And many people don't realize, but paper is used on many things, such as it can be used for textbooks, books, newspapers, writing pads, and tea being the most popular beverage at that time, so it was a really big deal. Okay, so 3 years later, and the complaints from all the taxes reach Britain, and 1770 they realize how serious these complaints have become. So what they did is they repealed on the majority of the taxes, all except for one, which is the most popular beverage, tea. 3 years later, they passed what's called the Tea Act. And November 29, 1773, Samuel Adams has a secret meeting about what to do on shutting down or what to do based off of these taxes. So the day comes December 16th of 1773, and the Americans dress up as Mohawk Indians. And it wasn't so much for a disguise, but it was to make a point that they are Americans and not British. So a big group goes to the docks and they divide into smaller groups, and what they do is they get on the ships and they start dumping all the tea overboard. And so if you think about it now, that is maybe $1 million worth of tea in today's money. So with this act, the British was not going to have it, so there has to be consequences for it. So what happens is they pass a Boston Port Act, which is the port of Boston is to remain closed until the money that for the tea has been repaid. They also passed the Massachusetts Government Act, which is the legislative power of colonists, was greatly reduced. The Administration of Justice Act, which was to move many of the trials away from the American soil and into British realm. And there was also the Quartering Act, which is colonists, they had to provide a room for English soldiers if they had to. Okay, so the resistance gets stronger, which leads to the Continental Congress, where the colonies meet and agree to defend each other, which eventually brings us to the Revolutionary War. So that is everything that I've got for the Boston Tea Party. I hope you guys enjoyed that. My name is Maria Maldonado. You guys have a good night.